Nathan Cox here. Okay guys, I did this a long time ago but didn't do the best job about it. So I'm going to do a new video on how to refinish your table. Focusing on kitchen tables, but this applies to most any table that's been stained. Not doing a painting of this one, we're going to be doing a staining job of this table. Okay. Luckily I've got a solid wood table behind me, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let's first talk about some of the things you're going to need. Okay, big laundry list. Let's get started. First, you need a Holy t-shirt, you need a shop vac, extension cord, WD-40, lots and lots of sandpaper, a sander, another sander, masking tape, wood glue, measuring tape, air plugs, polyurethane, your brush, pliers, Phillips #2 screwdriver, pencil, more sandpaper, rags, Gatorade, dust mask, don't forget hammer, and hacksaw. Okay, hold on a second guys. Woo! Don't really need all that stuff, okay? I just felt like doing that. It seems like when you ever get something that's like a need to assemble thing, they have this laundry list of tools. Let's start this one over, okay? Okay, let's try to get serious for a moment. Okay, things you're actually going to need to refinish a wood table for staining, okay? Now this is at the end, but you are going to need a brush and some polyurethane. Sanders would be great if you have one. If you don't, that's okay. I got one and I got this big tube on it for dust collection, so I'll have my shop vac hooked to that. That's nice also, but you can get away by just getting some sheets of sandpaper and doing it all by hand. You're probably going to need to use some of the sandpaper by hand anyways around some of the crevices around the table, okay? Sandpaper. You're going to need some multiple grits too. I'm going to start off with probably an 80 grit, then go to probably around 120, and then finish with a 220, something like that, give or take. Quick note about the grits of sandpaper. I've seen a lot of people get this confused, even professionals on the TV shows that mix this up when they said it. The bigger the grit number, the smoother the paper. Okay, easy way to understand that is that typically 1 square inch of that sandpaper, if it's 100 grit sandpaper, there's going to be 100 grits of sand in that square inch. So if it's a 50 grit sandpaper, you're going to have 50. If it's going to be a 220, you're going to have 220. So obviously the more grit, the softer it is. And then you still get mixed up when you get to the store, just touch it. You'll see, you can tell which ones are smooth and which ones are really, really rough. So you're going to need a fine, a medium, and a coarse, okay? That's basically what it boils down to. This here is one of those multi-purpose oscillating tools there. Love and hate relationship with this guy, but that's a whole nother video. I do have what do you call it? A real fine, kind of delicate sanding piece in here. It's a triangle shaped. I'm going to give it a try for the first time on a couple pieces of this table. Not necessary, just going to see how it works. You might want a dust mask to keep the dust out. I know I always like that. Earplugs are always good. You probably will actually need maybe a little bit of masking tape, maybe not, depends on your table. Oh, and rags. Rags are important. Some people say they want the cheesecloth, which is basically kind of like a gauze. It's a little bit tacky. I personally just use clean rags. Clean dry rags are great. Okay, so I'm going to do some shots right there so you can see a close-up shot of the table and see the condition that it's in. This right here is a solid oak table. The reason I know it's solid oak is if you can see in the shots, maybe you can tell it or not, but when you look at the end grain of the boards, you can see the board slats on the top, you can see the very end, you can actually see the grain that's been cut. That's a dead giveaway that this is actually a solid oak top, which is awesome, which means I can sand into it really well and clean it up, get out any scratches or gouges or anything like that, and make it look almost like new. That's amazing. A lot of tables are not like that anymore, or haven't been for a while. A lot of them are a veneer. Whether it's a particle board veneer or a plywood veneer, they start off with the plywood or particle board, and then they have a thin wood. Typically it is still wood veneer, but it's very thin. is very thin. So my caution to everyone out there who's going to do this, first of all, try to find out what your table is actually made out of. Is it solid or is it a veneer? If you don't know, always err on the side of caution and start sanding off very softly, okay? Because you don't want to just start tearing into it. Because if you sand into the veneer and you've gone through a layer, that's it. You're going to see the different layers in that spot, and it's always going to be there. So if you think it may have a veneer, be very, very careful. Be very light when you're sanding. Be very delicate. You know, that's just what it is. Is what it is. But if it is a veneer, it should still stain like a regular wood and still finish with a good poly. So as long as you're careful during the sanding, you should still get a very, very nice refinish job out of it. And that's really what we're looking at doing here. So well, you can see why I like my random orbital sander. You can see why I like it with the dust pickup. It's great. You can see there was very little dust that came off of that at all. 90% of it's in the shop vac right now. So if you got it set up, use it. It's really great. As you can see, you want to, as much as you can, sand with the grain of the wood, but round table, you can't always sand with the grain. There's a lot of situations you can't 100% sand with the grain. It's another reason why the random orbital sander is so great, because it really helps to not look like you just, crossed the grain and sanded and tore up the grain marks. I'm going to use my little oscillating tool here and give it a shot for the first time on the sanding. I've never sanded with it before, but it has a detail sander. Okay, that was pretty good there. Alright, I give this a thumbs up there for the little oscillating tool for the detail sander on it. I didn't know how well I would like that. Now I do like my random orbital sander with a dust collector and the shop vac hook to it. It is a lot cleaner, but those little corners you can't get to and the other crevices, I sure like doing that a whole heck of a lot better than trying to do it all by hand. Now, for those of you who watched me just do all that sanding on the table, which took quite a while in real time, don't fret if it's taking a long time and you're starting to get frustrated, worn out. Especially a table like this. This had a really, really good finish on it. That was a lot of work to get through that finish. Makes for a good table, makes for a hard refinish. But it looks easier here on the video. Two reasons really. One, I got some good power tools and I know how to use them. And two, time lapse. Time lapse makes everything look easier, right? Okay, I guess it's time to try to figure out the stain. Okay, here we are trying to figure out the stain for the table. Like I said, we're leaving the base finished the way it was. We're just going to refinish the tabletop here, but we want to try to match it pretty close. Now we know it's not going to be perfect because the stain will age with time, so especially will the polyurethane or the varnish, especially if it's in sunlight. It will darken and yellow and this and that, and there was definitely a lot to that because this was a couple shades darker than the base. I've got a golden oak and a golden pecan here. It's my first best guesses at what this stain probably is. What I got is I have the leaf, and on the inside edge of the leaf where it goes together, you'll never see it, I'm going to do a couple of little test spots there first. Okay, I think the golden oak is going to do it. That's a really good thing to do, is do a test spot so you know you got something close. The polyurethane isn't going to make much change at all, not right away. Now down the road, so a few years down the road, depending on how much sunlight it gets, it will darken a little bit. Some varnishes have a little bit of darkness into them, and you can actually get some products that are actually already ambered. I can't remember if it was a varnish or shellac. No, actually I think there's a shellac that's carried in a lot of paint stores and stuff like that, that actually has an ambered tint to it to help match stuff that's really aged. But the base of this really didn't age much. It didn't catch the sun and stuff like that, so I didn't need the ambered look. So, there we go. Step 2. You already saw me dust off the tabletop with the rag. I love using a rag to apply stains. I just find that it's better to get it smooth, uniform, get it into the grain, but not too much. So I don't like using brushes. I really like using rags. So let's get this stain on the table and see how it looks. Cox here. Guys, day 2 here. We're getting ready to put the finish coat on our table. The stain came out real nice yesterday. It's completely dry. Okay, so the first thing you need to do today before you get started is make sure the stain is completely dry. That needs to happen before you put your finish coat on. When you feel your table, it should feel dry. It should feel almost as dry as the bare wood, only not, with all the sawdust on it, but really, really dry. If there's any tackiness whatsoever, then it's not dry. So either your drying conditions weren't right, like it was very humid, or the temperatures were off, or you got too much stain on the table. So either you need to give it more time to dry, or you need to take a rag with some mineral spirits and wipe those tacky areas, so you can take off some of the excess, and then give it some time to dry. If it's not dry to the touch, then we're not ready for the finish coat. Okay, but my table here is completely dry, ready for the finish coat. So what you need, you really just need to make sure you got a drop cloth underneath the table. Hopefully you've already put that underneath there during the stain. The polyurethane is going to drip. It's thin like the stain, and this time I'm brushing it on and not with a rag. So I'm going to have drips. You can have polyurethane in your brush. Really, that's about it. Brush with the grain of the wood. Don't put it on too heavy. Now, if you choose a polyurethane or a spar varnish or something else, just read the directions on the can. Each one's going to have a slight different directions on the application. How many hours to wait for recoat. Some of your spar varnishes need to wait overnight, a full 24 hours for recoating. They want it to really set before you recoat it there. They're a bit different than the standard, just a base polyurethane. Polyurethanes generally take, about 4 hours for recoat a lot of times. And sometimes you can actually recoat sooner than that while it's still just a little tacky, and then you won't have to sand in between coats. Now if it does dry all the way, then you're going to have to lightly sand between coats with probably about a 220 grit sandpaper. Okay, so that's all the technical mumbo jumbo stuff. Let's just get this puppy going, okay? Okay, there's the first coat of finish. Now depending on how this is looking, when it's tacky I might still apply a second coat right away. If it's looking a little bit rougher, sometimes when the finish coat, whether it's a polyurethane or varnish goes into the wood, it gets a little bit rough. So sometimes the first coat you really need to let it set dry all the way and then do a light sanding to smooth it out so that your two top finished coats come out super smooth. And right now that's kind of the way I'm thinking it's going to happen. I'm probably going to have to let this set all the way instead of recoat in a couple hours. Tinfoil here. Here's the thing. Most of my paintbrushes, I have really high quality paintbrushes I use for latex paints. Keep them super clean, ready to go. I don't do a lot of oil-based stuff, so I bought an economy throwaway brush. I'm not looking to use a bunch of mineral spirits to soak it in. You just take some aluminum foil and wrap it real tight. Generally you can keep it airtight enough, at least for a day or so, not for a couple of days. Like that, there we go. So that it doesn't dry out on you. This way, so to unwrap it, use it again, and use it again, finish this project, and then throw it away. Guys, okay? Let's wait till let's wait this to dry. Maybe it'll be tomorrow, maybe later today, we'll see. But hang in there with me. When I get this table finished off, I'm looking super beautiful. So I'm going to give it a light sanding. It's going to look real chalky. I'm going to brush with another coat. And then before that coat dries all the way while it's still tacky, I'm going to put another coat on top of that. And hopefully, that'll be done. And then we do some finished shots. I'll see you before and after. Anyways, let's get this thing going. go. The table is finished. So my last 2 coats on is looking great, looking so much better than I did right off the bat. Over here, step to the side, I'll put a before and an after shot rolling of the tabletop so you guys can really see the difference. It made the table look almost completely new, totally revived it. For those of you who've been watching this, I know it's a longer video, but it's a lot of work to refinish the table. So if you enjoyed this video, that's great. Please share it, and please check out my channel, subscribe while you're there. Check out all the other videos that I've got going on. I got lots of things, a lot of tips, just many other things going on. Hopefully some more stuff that you're going to enjoy. So, as always, thanks again.